What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Paddock, and today we are going to do a jazz articulation breakdown. Have you ever heard someone play the exact same music as you, the same part, the same soli, the same transcription, and their performance of it sounds way better than your performance, and you can't figure out why because you are playing all the right notes and all the right rhythms? Today, I am going to dive into that reason, and that reason is the unwritten rules of jazz articulation. So today, I'm going to take the first 6 measures of a transcription and show you how to add in the unwritten articulation to make your lines really come alive and have direction. I'm going to use one of my favorite Charlie Parker transcriptions. This is the one I use with all my students when we first get into the Omni book, and I use it mainly to teach Charlie Parker lines, but also to really break down those rules, the unwritten rules of jazz articulation. That song is Perhaps. So we're going to use the first 6 measures of Perhaps, and we're going to take it from bland and boring without any of the correct articulations to make it sound really great with all of the correct unwritten articulations. Okay, to start off, I am going to play Perhaps with the unwritten rules of articulation. So I'm going to add in all of the articulation, and then I'm going to play it again without those articulations. And you're going to hear a giant difference. I'll put the notes below so you can follow along and you can play along. So this is with the correct articulations. And this is without the correct articulations. That's really hard to play like that. But as you can tell, there is a giant difference between the two. And all I'm doing is swinging it harder and putting in the correct unwritten articulation. So let's start at the very top. The very first note is an E, and it's a quarter note on the beat. When we play quarter notes on the beat in jazz, we usually dop that quarter note. By dop, I mean marcato, which is one of those, but I like to call articulations by what they sound like. So we're going to dop that first note. That E is going to have a dop. So instead of, we're going to go. Do you hear how that already set up this line to sound way better? Instead of. So we're going to dop that quarter note on beat 1, and then we're headed towards that A on the and of 4. So that is going to be our next note that we bring out. Take a listen to it. Now, when we have a quarter note that is on the and, that is off the beat, so to speak, we have 2 options. We can either accent it or we can dop it. And it all depends on where it is in the music and how it sounds. So the first time I'm going to accent it. Accent means hit the note hard but play it full value. The second time I'm going to dop it. That means accent the note and play it short. So we're going to do both, and we're going to take a listen and see which one sounds better. So this is the accent. Doesn't sound bad, but it doesn't sound great either. So this is with the dop. The dop sounds way better, and that's actually what Charlie Parker did. So that is a reinforcement that is definitely the way to play it. So we're going to dop the E on the beat, the quarter note on the beat. We're also going to dop the quarter note that is on the and, but sometimes those will be an accent, and later on in the music you'll see an example of that. So take a listen. So now when you're listening, we're looking for goal notes. Goal notes are the turnaround notes, or the more important notes. I call them like ricochet notes sometimes too. So you're going to run into that note and change direction. The G sharp in measure 2 is definitely one of those. If we bring that note out, it sounds really good. If we don't, you're really missing some direction change that you could bring out. So this is with bringing the G sharp out. This is without bringing it out. It's a small difference, but it really does make a difference, especially if you add several of those in. So there's no real articulation marking for bring out a goal note, because we're not really accenting it, we're not dopping it, we're not staccatoing it, we're just leaning into it a little bit. So whenever we have a goal note is like the direction that we're going towards. That note is an important note. We're going to bring that out a little bit. I like to put a line down on it when I'm showing my students which ones to bring out. So when you see a line down on a note in this example, that means to bring it out. That doesn't mean to accent it. It just means to lean into it. It means it's a more important note. So let's take a listen and find the next goal note. So you heard them in measure 3. If we bring out that F sharp, and the E after that, you can hear how it's bringing out the bebop at the end of the phrase. If we don't bring those notes out, you're really missing out on something that could sound cool. Now, the end of the phrase, the C sharp to the B, and music like this sounds bebop. That's where it got its name from. So when you have those two eighth notes at the end of the line, the first one is a long note, and the second one is a staccato. So you get the phrase bebop. The phrase ends bebop. You hear that bebop at the end? Without it, it sounds like this. Again, by adding in just that little simple articulation of long short, you get a really great sounding line. So let's take a listen to all those measures together. So we really turn that line around because before it sounded like this. It just doesn't flow like it's swinging, but it doesn't have that vibe to it. There's no direction in the line. With the correct articulation, there's all kinds of directions. It sounds like a statement. It sounds like you're saying something. It sounds fun. All right, so let's take a look at this next measure. So we have a quarter note, which is off the beat. Quarter notes off the beat are either going to be dopped or accented. So let's take a listen to these two and see which one we need to do. That's a dop. This is the accent. To me, the accent sounds way better. It gives it more weight, and right there we need more weight. So in this example, we're going to accent the quarter note off the beat. Let's do the whole phrase together from the beginning. Yeah, how good that sounds? I'm going to do a dop this time just so you can hear the difference. The dop works, but it's not nearly as powerful as the accent. Again, that doesn't sound bad, but it's not nearly as powerful as. So in that case, we would do the accent. So how do you know whether it's an accent or a dop? You play it. Whichever one sounds better, that's the one that you do. There's no 100% rule when it comes to these unwritten rules of articulations. It kind of comes down to what sounds better, and sometimes the rule is going to work and sound great, which is about 80% of the time, and sometimes it's not going to sound good at all, so you don't do it. But if you have these little unwritten rules of find the direction change note, or dop the quarter note, or bring out the goal notes, that's almost always going to make your line sound better. All right, let's play this last line here. It's a good sounding line. Let's do it without the phrase. Let's do it without the articulation. It doesn't sound nearly as good. So let's break it down and figure out what we're doing here. All right, so that E is a direction change note. So we're going to bring that note out as one of our goal notes. Again, we're not going to accent it. We're just going to lean into it so that you can hear the change in direction a little bit stronger. Sounds way better. As opposed to, again, just bringing out that note a little bit. If you do that throughout the whole song with several of the direction change notes, it's going to make the song sound really good. Now, if you look at the bottom, the C is also a direction change note. So should we bring that one out also? This is what it would sound like if we bring the C at the bottom out also. That doesn't sound bad, but to me, it doesn't sound good. Bringing out that C just puts everything too strong on the beat. So I like to bring out that approach note right before it, the C sharp. I feel like if I bring out that C sharp, it sets up the C better. Take a listen. Do you hear the difference between that? So we're using the C sharp as an accent to bring out the C, to make the C sound more important. This is what it sounds like without bringing out the C sharp, but bringing out the C instead. Both of them sound okay, but to me, when you bring out the approach note meaning that half step above the C sharp going into the C, it just makes the line flow better for me. Then we have that G sharp, which is a long note off of the beat. A long note on the and or off of a beat is always going to be accented. A long note off of the beat is anything longer than a quarter note. So you're always going to bring that out. If it's long enough, you're going to do a sforzando, like a forte piano. You hit it hard, bring it down, and bring it back up. If it's not that long, like this one, you're just going to hit it hard. Now the release is the F sharp to the E, and the E is obviously a quarter note on the beat. We've already talked about dopping quarter notes on the beat. Sounds pretty good without it. You lose so much power. Those dops create power. They create the movement and the direction of the line. So you really want to bring those out. Sounds great. It's like an exclamation point on the end of your musical sentence. So take a listen to the whole phrase with the correct unwritten rules of articulation. So with just a few tweaks of the lines that you're already playing, you can turn them from okay-ish sounding jazz swing lines to really great sounding bebop lines. And all you have to do is put in some of those unwritten rules, dop your quarter notes, bring out the direction change, find where your goal notes are. Your goal notes are like the main notes. They're the more important notes. Lean into them a little bit. If you have a long note off the beat, accent it. So you just need to find your spots that are going to make the music really have a lot of direction. Articulation is all about creating direction in your music. Thanks for taking the time to check out this jazz articulation breakdown. If you now understand how to add these into your jazz lines, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and share it with your friends. Thanks a lot.